Zelensky calls for seized Russian billions to rebuild Ukraine.
Here's a summary of the article.
President Zelensky has called for some of the Russian billions seized by world banks to be sent to rebuild Ukraine. The BBC understands central bankers in Europe have concerns over undermining banks' safe haven status. Despite some enthusiasm from the US and UK governments, Europe's central bankers have been far more skeptical about setting a difficult legal precedent that could undermine global financial stability. Proponents of the wider plan think tens of billions of dollars could be raised given some $360 billion in frozen assets, and now high interest rates. President Zelensky told the BBC on the margins of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, that Western taxpayers should not foot the bill for the war in Ukraine. He said, "We have $300 billion of frozen Russian assets. They destroyed Ukraine. If we have $300 billion of Russia assets, we have to use them directly to rebuild what has been destroyed by Russian missiles. Why does your society have to think how to help? If the world has $300 billion, why not use it?" Bill Winters, the boss of British bank Standard Chartered, said the global financial community's response to seizing the profits of Russian frozen assets would be mixed, amid fears of weaponizing central banks and currencies.
This post received a score of 5,500, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Good idea. Russia needs to pay to rebuild Ukraine anyway, and I doubt they'll do it willingly.
Absolutely agree with Zelensky, a crucial step towards economic recovery and strengthening of the nation.
Thought this was supposed to happen a long time ago.
It's been floated for a long time. The trouble is that there's no legal basis for stealing frozen assets simply because you like one side better than the other.
The trouble is you break the trust in the international monetary system if you do this.
I mean, Russia has already done the same thing since the sanctions started rolling. They have effectively stolen hundreds of businesses in the country as well as large movable assets such as aircraft. If we would eventually unfreeze the assets and let Russia have it back, then frankly the West deserves to be made fun of. 'Cause then we shoot ourselves in the foot just because we like to uphold our own standards.
One could argue that they took over abandoned businesses and kept them running.
And those people would be a special kind of ignorant.
Well, they were actually abandoned by the orders of foreign governments.
If you give Ukraine fresh funds to buy military equipment and supplies in the West, it has the exact same impact as releasing the Russian money to Ukraine. It doesn't cost us more, even though it might seem like it. Keeping the Russian money frozen has advantages, mainly to reinforce the idea that the West's rule of law is paramount and that other countries' money is safe when deposited in the West. The main advantage of releasing the money to Ukraine is the political message that Ukraine isn't taking money from the West but rather just taking Russian money, which is powerful, but if we can convince ourselves to give directly to Ukraine instead, it has the same economic implications but other advantages. Lastly, there's the risk that a government in the West would eventually release the funds to Putin's Russia, so giving it to Ukraine would prevent that, but I think it's very unlikely, and if that happens we've definitely got bigger problems at that point.
I think the long-term harm this can cause is way worse than just the obvious cases you mention. If we cross that Rubicon, other nations might follow, since the standard, or the unwritten rule is broken. What worries me then, is that our economies, the West, are much, much, more reliant on foreign investments than the opposite. So if we see a cascade of foreign investments confiscated left and right, we might be the ones shooting ourselves in the foot.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.